Persuading people to take the actions we want can be hard. Our teams and clients are bombarded with thousands of messages every single day. But there is a way for you to get above the noise. Stories. This is the Stories with Traction podcast, and I'm your host, Matt Zaun. Join my guests and me as we unpack the power of storytelling. We'll talk about topics like leadership, sales, and marketing, all through the lens of strategic storytelling. Enjoy this episode. In September, I was speaking in the Atlanta area, and I met a gentleman by the name of Dave. And we started having this conversation, and Dave is an extremely successful businessman. And he kept talking about different things that were bewildering to me, all the projects that he was involved with. And my first reaction was, how in the world does this human being do so many things? I was really intrigued. So I invited him on the podcast because I wanted to dissect how in the world is Dave doing all this stuff? Plus, how does he take his family business and how did he position it to thrive? So I'm so excited for this upcoming conversation. I will be interviewing Dave Johnson. Dave Johnson is the managing partner of Bentz Jazz USA, and he's the owner and CEO of Covenant Services. Dave, welcome to the Stories with Traction podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
So I really appreciate your time because you have literally probably a million different things going on. And that's where I want to start. I want to kind of tackle and unpack how you're able to keep all these plates moving. I want to talk a little bit about what you do for your companies, but also how you're able to take on more projects and expand the way you have. So can you let our listeners know some of the responsibilities that you have within your companies?
One of the main things I've got is Covenant Services, which is a services company. We're doing a lot of different things underneath. We have a plumbing company that is our main focus. We also do excavation work. We do new construction. We do a lot of different things underneath that title. My son and my daughter and my wife all work in that company, so they kind of take a lot of that off of me. I do the financial piece. I do the sales piece out there when it comes to customer relations and things like that. So that takes up a lot of my time. But again, they take the day-to-day operations off of me. My wife does all the bill paying and all that thing. And my daughter does the customer facing. My son does a lot of the all the other stuff. We also have I'm partners in a manufacturer supply company in the pest control industry. And we manufacture some products and we distribute a lot of others, and we're getting that up and rolling now. That's a new venture we just started back toward the middle of this year. I have partners. We have offices in 5 countries reaching out to the pest control industry and bringing out some innovative products. And with that, I head up the USA operations, all pieces of that, the sales, the marketing, the import, export, all that stuff. So all that is on me in the US. I have a few people that help me with that, but for the most part, that's what I do with that. And then I'm also a consultant in the pest control industry. That's where I spent 20 years in that industry. So I did some consulting there as well. And we're got a couple of things in the works now that we're going to be starting up relatively soon. But, it's just a matter of being very conscious of your time. You've only got so much time every day. And for me, we just married off my daughter not too long ago. And so my wife and my time is different now. So we're making sure we're making the most of that every day. I've got a lot to do, and I just make sure that I'm accounting for all those times. You get up early, you get going, and when you get time at night, you pull the laptop back out and you finish up while you watch TV or whatever you're doing. You just got to multitask. So.
All right, so there's a lot to unpack with what you said. So let's handle the first piece where you said family. So there are people that are going to listen to this episode, and as soon as you said that, they got excited because they're also in a family business and they love that they can give back to their family. Their family can take part in the goals of expansion, and they're fighting for a common mission. So some people listening to that, they heard you say that and they got excited. And then some people heard you say that and they got horrified because they're also in a family business and they recognize that to some people, it's not as easy as it looks, because not only you have that family relationship, but there could be different fights and strife and all these different things that come up. So for anyone listening that is in a family business, what's some words of words of advice that you can give to them to continue to keep it going and to fight for those missions that they are trying to hit?
You know, we've been doing it now for 3.5 years. I bought this company 3.5 years ago. We've learned a lot of lessons over that time. I always wanted to do something with my kids. I've always wanted to be able to do that because for years I traveled a lot and was, all over the world doing things. And, it took time away from the family. So this is really a time when my kids are older. They're all adults. So I'm able to spend time as an adult with them. And part of that is you have to differentiate between, being family and being at work. So you have to have a clear, boundary between those two, I think. You still recognize, those are still my kids and I still love them. And I'm going to defend them. If somebody attacks them, I'm going to defend them, but I don't treat them any different than any other employee. They have their responsibilities. They're held accountable for their responsibilities. But too, when we're at home, when we're, unless there's something that has to be talked about, we don't talk about work. It's a defining line. I work all the time. My wife, says I work too much, but that's where I get my joy. I can no longer play golf. My back won't let me. So, my hobby is work, and I get bored easily. So I start new things, and that's just what I do. But with the family, it's just making sure that you don't let business interfere with the relationship. The relationships are separate. They're different. And as long as everyone understands that ultimately I'm the boss and I've got other responsibilities to the other people who work for us, and that's where our responsibilities lie first when we're at work, then and we've been able to do that. There's always strife. There's always something's going to come up. But for the most part, everybody understands that our employees come first. And we, as a family, we all put our employees first. If somebody doesn't get a paycheck, it'll be us.
Well, all right. So I really appreciate you mentioning just not only that point that we'll get to, but also just the sheer amount that you work. I can relate to you. I feel like I'm working around the clock as well. Now, the advantage we have is we have the flexibility to work with different things when we want, but we also we're pulled in so many different directions. And there's this reoccurring theme right now with different younger generations, particularly about having a work-life balance, and people are always touting about, not doing too much and all these different things. But it's interesting because the same people will always tout high achievers, and those high achievers didn't get it by working as little as they possibly could. So it's amazing to me that in order for us to truly get the goals that you and I want, we do need to work and we do need to grind it out. So I appreciate you mentioning that.
Let me say something to that point. I'm probably going to make a lot of people angry when you talk about work-life balance. A lot of the people who talk about work-life balance want life and no work. They don't put any value in work. And, I was raised up, I watched my dad work 16, 18 hours a day, sometimes building a business. And whenever he was home, he was with us, but I understood that he had to work, and my dad got enjoyment from work, and he built that into us. So as I go to work every day, as I'm building something, that's enjoyment to me. I bring my family along. I bring, whenever there's things to do, it's just a part of who you are. And if all you live for is, and you differentiate between life and work, they're the same thing to me. I work so that I can live, but I live to work as well. I value work. I value achievement. I value that drive. And that's what keeps me alive. How many people do you see, they retire and they die 2 years later? Work-life balance means you work hard, you play hard, and you have fun.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And it's amazing that there are certain things that I'll do just like you, where it doesn't feel like work. I'm so passionate about it. Like time gets away from me. I'll look down at my clock and I can't even believe it's 4 p.m., right? Because time speeds up when you are doing something that you love. Yep. I also want to circle it back a little bit to the family piece, because I'm interested. So this is more of a personal question, but I think it'll help other people listening. So you'd mentioned not letting business interfere with family relationship. So first off, so people know, like you and I have had in-person conversations. I was doing a workshop down in the Atlanta area. I met you. I was fascinated by all the different things you have going on. So I wanted to have you on. So you know a little bit more about my story. I have 3 young kids, a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 5-year-old. And my 9-year-old is really starting to become part of the process. He wants to hear more about my goals, setting goals, how to achieve them. He's given me some pretty amazing business suggestions, believe it or not, from everyone listening. I mean, fascinating. I'm actually implementing some of the suggestions that he's given me because he's very obsessed with marketing and messaging. And
That's
so
cool.
from that age, yeah, it's awesome. I love it. It's like bringing him, part of the process. But from that young of an age, what would you recommend that I would do? Because right now he's talking about taking over my company. He wants to, be a part of it. He's excited. That's why he probably obsesses over some of the stuff like I do, because it excites him now. He's very young though. So what would you recommend I do? I'm not saying delicately, but what do I do to continue to teach him, but not interfere with a really important time from father son? He's 9. He's just learning about the world. What do you recommend I do to kind of set the pace for that?
So, I mean, my recommendation and what I was able to do, because I was self-employed when my kids were really, really young, and I was able to take them with me sometimes. They were able to go with me and see what I did and do things. So I think it's very, very valuable that if your son is interested, that he goes and sees what you do. He can go. I mean, when I was in the conference you did for us, I mean, your son could have sat in the corner and listened and watched his dad work. I mean, there's no bigger thrill for me when my kids get to see me, do a pitch or close a deal or talk with a customer and fix a situation. I mean, that to me, that I want them to see that. I want them, because I think I'm good at it. So I want them to see, what it looks like. So I think including them in what you do from a very early age is vital. I rode with my dad when my dad was self-employed for years. I rode with my dad. I worked with him every summer, and we spent a lot of time together, and I learned so much. But it's also not putting the pressure on him that you have to follow my footsteps. Oh, I expect you to be here. I expect you to do this. This is your legacy, because our kid's going to be different. And what your 9-year-old is now may not what he is when he's 15. My middle son was all about animals when he was really, really young, loved animals. And then when he got older, it became cameras, it became, videography and all this other stuff. So, they're going to morph and they're going to change and they're going to be different. You have to let them be who they're going to be. And my daughter is a free spirit. She's loud and boisterous but she's great with customers. So that's what she does for us. I mean, she deals with the customers and the customers love her. You just let them blossom where they blossom and pay attention to who they are and realize that they're not us. They're not a mini me. They're going to be a mixture of myself, my family above me, and my wife and her family around her. They're going to have all those parts in them, and let them be who they're going to be. Raise them up in the way they'll go, and they won't depart from it. That kind of thing.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I was laughing when you said, I think I'm good at it because I have a laundry list of stuff here and I randomly just picked something off this sheet. So for everyone listening, this is someone that thinks he's good at something. So Dave, you have closed contracts with Disney, with SeaWorld. You traveled to Saudi Arabia and closed over $1 million sale. So clearly you are great at it. How did you learn negotiation strategy?
So, a few things my dad taught me, I think, go toward, that relationship building and it's all about relationships for me. But he told me that my handshake and my name is the only thing that he can give me and make sure that he hands it off to me and it's still valuable. Don't ever mess up. If you shake on something, it's your word. Your word's your bond. Your name is all you have. So I learned that early, so I don't lie. And one of his quotes was, "I'm not smart enough to lie. I can remember the truth. I can't remember a lie." So that was one of my dad's biggest quotes that I remember. So to always be honest and to always protect my name, my reputation is foremost in my mind all the time. But two, it's all about, if you're going to be in sales, and just about everything is sales. If you're going to be in some kind of marketing, sales, growing a business, whatever, you have to, if you're going to do the reach out and the relationship building piece of it, you have to give first. So you have to be willing to give your information, give your knowledge, somewhat away for free. You don't give it all away, but you're willing to help. You're willing to do things for others. And then that creates the value in who you are and what you have to offer. So as you talk to people and as you go to functions, you're always willing to, hey, I can come look at that. The way I got into one of the biggest hotels in Orlando was the guy was having an issue. This was about when I was in pest control. He was having a bed bug issue in their hotel. And I said, let me come look at it. Let me look at what you're doing now. Let me look at your processes. I went out for free, walked through their whole system, walked through it all, looked at them and told them, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. 6 months later, I had his business, didn't ask for it.
So 6 months later, you had his business. So how do you get that through people's heads that are listening, that something as simple as flying down there, but then also for free? So some people might be thinking, like, are you out of your mind that you would do that for free? And you had to wait 6 months later before it came to fruition. So what is your stance regarding patience when it comes to you closing all these deals?
It depends on what you're selling too. When you're talking about $150,000 sale, it's a whole lot easier to wait on that than it is to wait on a $200 sale. There's a big difference, but understand that the wheels of progress don't always churn quickly. They churn slowly a lot of times. And if you're going to be in the game, you got to be in the long game. You have to build up. When I took over the operation in Orlando, we couldn't even get into hotels. We were in the pest control industry, and they would laugh us out of the door because of the reputation that our company had at that time in Orlando. It took us 2 years to change that mindset. And it was through grinding it out and offering to help and doing things that held value and doing it for free a lot of times and getting involved in the community. And, if you want to gain a customer, find out what they love and volunteer there, find out what their passion is, find out what they volunteer for and get involved and be seen and give back and create value in yourself. If you're not creating value, you're just another, person in the room.
I love that. But I also want to speak to this because I see a lot of businesses going this direction, and I do think it's going to backfire on a lot of them. We love the shiny new things in the marketplace. And right now, there's so many people. I've seen this where they're switching up elements of their business model based on AI. So they're changing strategy. They're trying to cut corners. And I'm not saying that AI isn't the future. It absolutely is. There's many things that we're going to be able to do to serve our customers even better based on AI. But there's people listening to this that are hearing some of your stories and thinking, oh, well, he's just old school. And that AI is going to change so many different things and they're going to be able to accelerate the process. But that there's a lot of elements that AI can't change, which AI can't fly down to Orlando to shake the hand of your prospect, right? So for anyone thinking that they should just go after AI to try to cut corners, what would you say about these simplistic truths, this wisdom that you're sharing regarding the connection, the human element? What would you say to that?
Is AI going to go and look somebody in the eye and shake their hand and say, this is what I'll do for you? I will come down and I will do a free assessment of what you're going to do. I'll do, AI can't, they can write a pretty letter. They can write a pretty email, but that doesn't get you. Once you get in front of the people, what are you going to do? If, everybody else is using AI, everybody else is sending the same email, you've got to differentiate yourself through personal connection. And if you aren't creating those connections, that personal connection, sales, that goes with your employees as well. If you're not able to take and create a relationship that goes beyond business, you're gonna just another person in the room. Like I said earlier, there's no differentiation between you and someone else. And AI, and like I said, AI can make a nice letter, can send a nice email, but it can't create the relationships.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. So let's shift gears a little bit. I want to continue to highlight some of the things that you said in the beginning. So we talked about the family piece, but also there's another piece that you didn't directly say, but it was applied or implied, was that you had to delegate, right? You're not a one-man shop. You have tons of different people that are helping you spread this mission, this vision, and connect and create a better life for your customers. So let's talk about delegation. It's talked about in many business circles, but it's amazing that a lot of leaders are not willing to delegate. They still want to be in every detail, and I see so many of them get stressed. Was there an aha moment in your business where you recognized, hey, I can't be everything to everybody. I need to start delegating?
Yeah. So whenever you're running a company that's got 30 employees and you've got 3 managers and you've got to look at all those different moving parts, you have to trust people. You have to trust those that are around you that, agree with you. And you have to surround people with people that you can trust. So family-owned business here, it's been really nice to be able to have my kids who I know I can trust financially and those kind of things. But it's also good to know that I have built up a level of friends around the industries that I can call in and pull in, and also trust them to give me good advice and lean on others as well. So when it comes to delegating, there's so many things I've got going on that I have to do, that I can't take on things that other people can do. I don't, I don't schedule the calls. I don't answer the phone. I don't pay the bills. A lot of things I don't do because I don't have the time. And when it comes to my consulting, they have to give me what I'm going to talk about. They have to give me what I'm going to look at. I can't go searching for it. There's just so many things that you have to do, that you have to rely on others and trust that they're going to give you their best. And again, you have to hold them accountable as well. You have to make sure that they understand what the best is and what your expectations are. Because if you just delegate and don't give them good direction, they're going to make it up on their own, and they may completely be opposite of what you are.
So while you're speaking, this came to my mind. Okay, so you didn't directly say it, but it was very much implied with everything that you were saying. Is if you say yes to everything, you're potentially saying no to what you're great at. Meaning, if you're saying yes to every aspect of your business, if you're phenomenal at sales and negotiation, you're actually saying no to that because you're stuck doing all the different things you should be delegating. I think a lot of business leaders need to hear that there's a lot of power in delegation for sure. I want to hit one more point with you, Dave, about time management. Okay, so I want to kind of shift gears and talk about time management for a second, because people can't see my desk right now. I have 7 sheets of paper with things that Dave has done in recent years. So we could have a 3-hour podcast just based on all the different things that you've done. Let's talk about a time management perspective for a moment. Again, a lot of people talk about time management. They read about time management. They think they're good at time management. What are some things you'd say to people regarding time management on how you were able to do all that you're able to do?
I create extra time. I mold time around. No, I'm just now. One of the things you have to do is, emails and phone calls and texts are time suckers. You have to put them in their proper perspective. I generally I try to check my email once an hour and respond to things that are urgent. If not, at the end of the day, I'll go back and circle back to things that need to be addressed. I got an open door policy. My door is always open, which can lead to issues because people want to come in and sit down and talk. But I tend to say, hey, I've got other stuff I've got. So you have to curtail things. You don't want to be rude, but you have to curtail things because people will suck your time. You take those. When I'm sitting in a truck, I take my laptop with me. So if I've got to sit and wait on somebody, I can pull my laptop out and do work. Just don't waste time. You have to make sure I got a presentation I do about, I said 86,400 is a number of seconds in a day. You can't get them back. You can't, if you waste them, they're gone. They're not infinite. They're finite. So you have to account for every one of those seconds every day. And some of those have to be family, need to be family. Some of those are going to be sleep, need to be sleep. Other ones have got to eat, so that leaves you, only so many seconds in a day that you got to fill with productive time. And you have to look at where are you wasting time? You have to, everybody's different. People's phone calls, and they just talk all day on the phone. They elongate conversations when they don't have to. If you're busy, you have to delegate. You have to manage that time and shorten things down. I look at, I read some presidential memoirs and things about how regimented their time was. I've got 15 minutes for this. I've got 10 minutes for this. You got 5 minutes. You go speak to this person. You're back. And, it's, you don't get that regimented, but you need to have a focus on, where you're spending your time, and look back at the day. I've had days where I'm like, man, I got a lot done today. And I look back and say, what did I do differently today? And it's just, I was focused all day, and that's where you got to kind of pay attention to.
All right. So I appreciate you mentioning the presidential piece, because I do want to make this point. So what's fascinating to me is if you look at the last presidents we've had through the last however many decades, okay, as this has been tracked based on this specific role, regardless of party, the president that we've had that has been the most effective and efficient, they had a phenomenal chief of staff in the chief of staff seat. And they're the ones saying, this is the priority. This is what we're focused on. They work with a team of people regarding calendar management is huge.
Yeah.
And the ones that get it wrong, they hire on the wrong person that is handling their calendar in not so good of a way. And they're the ones that don't get their initiatives passed through Congress. So I appreciate you mentioning that. It's so unbelievably important. So Dave, you're a man of tremendous wisdom. I've learned from you in person, speaking to you. We had a phone call recently where I learned a bunch from you. And during this conversation, I learned some really good wisdom from you. So I appreciate it. There's 3 things in particular that I will remember from our conversation. I really appreciate you mentioning to me, don't let business interfere with family relationships. This is really good for me to recognize because being a man that I really want to be an incredible husband and father, I cannot, even though I'm like you, where I work around the clock and sometimes maybe people would say too much, I need to make sure that I'm not letting it interfere with my family because I'm doing it for them. So why would I let it interfere with them? So I appreciate that first point. The second point is I appreciate the story that you shared regarding your father. You talked about how your father taught you how to shake someone's hand, how to look them in the eye and remember a name. Basically, your word is your bond, and to protect your name and reputation. Everyone wants to talk about branding today. Well, one of the ways you protect your brand is through that incredible reputation. I appreciate you mentioning that. And then the third and final piece, where there's tons of wisdom in this. I love this. Based on all the different messages and stories that you shared, it really boils down to if you say yes to everything, you're potentially saying no to what you're great at. We have to get great at delegation. So Dave, thank you so much for your time. If people want to learn more about your services and they want to get in touch with you, where's the best place they can go to get that information?
Easiest place to get me is Dave Johnson at bitjazz.com. That's my email. You can look us up online at bitjazzusa.com. That's our website. And you can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm big on LinkedIn, Dave Johnson or David Johnson on LinkedIn. That's where I'm at. So anything, if I want to reach out to me, I'll talk. I enjoy helping. So willing to talk to anybody.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'll include all that in the show notes. People could just click and go from there. But thank you again, Dave. I appreciate it.
Man, I enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, bud.
Thank you for listening to the Stories with Traction podcast. Please leave a review since positive reviews will make it easier for others to find this conversation. Next episode will launch on Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern. Until then, remember, if you want to persuade with power and inspire those around you to action, you must share more stories.